Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry to firstly make you wait because there was some confusion since the schedule wasn't there in the list, but there was a class which was scheduled today. So that's why there is some confusion. No worries. Just took some time to rectify it. So we will be discussing on the continuation of a previous chapter on the returns. Okay. Any doubts? Because today we are seeing that there is a very few students, so we could take up doubts and clarify this. Okay, so Hardik has a query. I have a doubt, sir, in relation to GSTR1. If the value of the invoice is more than 1 lakh rupees in case of B2C, do we have to upload the details and what all cases it has to be uploaded? So I'll take you to the slide where the value is mentioned and what all we have to upload. And the value from 2.5 to 1 lakh, when is it reduced? That is also relevant because is it applicable for your exams? Because in your study material, it still says 2.5 lakhs only, not 1 lakh. Yeah, it says then in the following manner, then it says reduced to 1 lakh rupees. Mm. Rule 5944A and 5. Okay. If we see the rules, we will get to know when is the date when this changes happen. Rule 59. Yes. The additional details or the amendments or the details of outward supplies of goods or services furnished in 1A may be required, including. So this is amended. Okay. On 1st of August 2024. Right. So since it is happened in 1st August 2024, that the value of 2.5 lakhs is reduced to 1 lakh rupees. So this will be relevant for your exams, firstly. Now, what all will we include? I will tell you that. Both the places it has got changed to 1 lakh rupees. Share the slide number 18. Yeah. So invoice wise details we will have to give whenever we make any supply to registered persons, right? So when you make any supply to a registered person, their invoice wise details is definitely required. That is any kind of interstate and intrastate supplies, we will have to give this. right? Any interstate and intrastate, let it be even for 10 rupees, we have to give invoice wise details. And if it is B2C, which is it is to an unregistered person, then if it is interstate more than 1 lakh, then we will give the invoice value. Okay, wherever the value of the invoice is more than 1 lakh, their invoice wise details we will give. And we will give consolidators when it is B2C and intrastate supplies made to unregistered person for any value. And if it is B2C interstate, and if the value is less than 1 lakh, then we will give a consolidated statement. So invoice wise will give only in two cases, when it is B2B, and second when it is B2C for a interstate transaction for a value more than 1 lakh rupees. Okay. The next question was what all details we will give. Okay. What we have to upload, we have to give the invoice number, the value of the invoice, tax involved in the invoice. Those details we will give when the value of the invoice is more than 1 lakh rupees. When the value is less than 1 lakh, you don't have to give invoice number details. You will have to consolidate all such invoices which are below 1 lakh rupees, accumulate it together, see the total, and give it in a consolidated GSTR1 returns. Okay. Sir, could you give debit note, credit note, delivery challan, tax invoice notes? Previous faculty thought this notes not uploaded. Okay, sure. I will upload the notes. I have that. What is meant by state-wise? Sir, when we do interstate transactions, you have to report it as a IGST transaction. Correct? So when you report IGST transaction, which is the destination state, we have to mention the state-wise details. So we will have to give the state-wise details. So if you have 3 interstate transactions, one is going to Maharashtra, one is to Delhi, one is to Tamil Nadu. So each state-wise we will have to give, because when we mention IGST in the GSTR1, it will ask you for the state. So that's why we will have to report the state-wise how much transactions we have done. Consolidated details, Hardik, it says that you don't have to give invoice level details. When we file the GSTR1, we give the invoice level details. But when we give a consolidated information, we do not have to give a invoice level details. We have to give the total details. That is called as consolidated details. I think that clarification will get clarified if I show you on the portal how it works. Let me try to show it on the portal. B2C greater than 1 lakhs intrastate sales, still you will have to give consolidate, sir. If it is intrastate, then state-wise will not be required. If it is interstate, then it will be required, sir. Okay, you are asking not state-wise, you are asking invoice-wise customer details for greater than 1 lakh intrastate. So then it says that when you have to give invoice-wise details of interstate and intrastate supplies made to registered person. Second is interstate supplies. Interstate supplies where the value is more than 1 lakh, you have to give invoice-wise details. Now when it is B2C, intrastate supply made to registered persons for each rate of tax. Correct. It is not state of tax, it is rate of tax. You will have in your state some sales at 5%, some sale at 12%, some sale at 18%. So each tax rate wise we have to give the details, and it is a intrastate supply. Okay, you do not have to give. You are asking invoice wise customers. Can you please unmute because your query is not clear? If that's fine.
This time asking B2C invoice wise details for greater than 1 lakh is required or not? I'm asking.
Correct, sir. If it is B2C and the invoice is more than 1 lakhs, then you have to decide whether it is interstate or intrastate.
Okay.
If it is interstate, you have to give invoice wise detail.
Okay, that is already over, sir.
If it is intrastate, then you don't have to give invoice wise detail.
Whatever be the amount, sir.
Total. So if you have
invoice amount, how much it will be? No need to give individual invoice details.
You don't have to give invoice wise detail. When you say consolidated, you don't have to give invoice wise detail.
That I'm asking, sir. Whatever may be the value, not required.
Correct.
That I'm asking.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hardik, what is your doubt?
Good morning, sir. Sir, my doubt was in relation to consolidated details. For intrastate, sir, we for any amount of supply, if we have a consolidated value of 1 lakh rupees or more with a unregistered customer, then it should not be uploaded.
Correct.
And sir, if it would have been a interstate supply, then it would have been uploaded invoice wise.
Correct.
And sir, if it would have been B2B, then always we have to upload it. Whether interstate or intrastate, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. We'll have a overview of how the portal works. So then you'll have clarity, because some practical aspect, if it is shared, then it will be beneficial for everyone. So this is the GST portal. When you go to dashboard, I'll go slowly. On the dashboard, you will find your electronic ledgers, where whatever is the balance in your electronic credit ledger will appear, and whatever is in balance in your electronic cash ledger will appear, and electronic credit reversal and reclaim statement, which is not relevant for you, but these things will appear here. Okay. Then you go to services and the returns. When you go to returns, you have a return dashboard. In the return dashboard, we'll first go to the month in which we want to file the returns. So in this case, GSTR1 for December has not been filed. So we will try to file the return. So details of outward supply is coming in GSTR1. So when you click the month, all the respective returns appear: GSTR1, 1A, 2, 2A, 2B, and 3B. So first we will upload the details of outward supplies in GSTR1. Okay. When you have to file nil return, just click on this, all the other table goes off. Okay. But if you have to enter any value, then you'll have to enter it over here. So when we say invoice wise details, you have to go to the respective table, click on add record. You have to declare what is this. This is a regular supply. Mention the recipient's GST number. And then you have to give invoice wise details. So this is what we mean when we say invoice wise details. You have to give the invoice number, each GSTN wise, mention the GSTN number, mention the invoice number, the date of invoice, invoice value, place of supply, and IRN if e-invoice is getting generated. And then click on save. That will get saved. Since I have not mentioned any data, it is saying information is required. But this is how you will file your invoice wise details. Okay. Now let us see how do we file consolidated details. B2C large invoices. Okay. When you say B2C large invoice, it means the value is above 1 lakh rupees. Okay. First, it will ask you the place of supply, because whenever we are giving consolidated invoice, we will have to give a consolidated invoice. So say I have 10 sales. Okay. 10 sales to Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Sorry, this is B2C large. So only interstate supply will come here, not intrastate. So interstate supply, I will have to give invoice wise details. So first what we saw was B2B supplies. There any value we'll have to enter it. Here B2C large invoices, which is interstate sales, that has to be entered here. Same in the previous manner, invoice level details. What is the rate of tax and what is the taxable value. Then next comes consolidated invoice. This is B2C others. Place of supply will be again, if it is B2C less than 1 lakh rupees, the total value. See here, if you see, there is no invoice number which has been asked, which means whatever is your invoices below 1 lakh rupees, add all of them and say if it accumulates to 15 lakhs. So it will be 15 lakhs to Assam. Then I will mention the rate wise. Say I have charged at a rate of 18%. This is my integrated tax. I will save this. Then there is another state. Say Daman and Diu for 12 lakhs. I will mention 12 lakhs and select the rate 18%. The tax will come. Save this. So this is how consolidated details are entered. Invoice wise details will not come here. Is this clear, Hardik and others? So when we say consolidated, we will not give invoice number details. We will give a total of all that invoices which is supplied to a B2C customer. Okay. Now we've understood GSTR1 B2C, this details we have entered. Okay, let's not mess up the return. So let's clear this up. Okay. So once we enter all the details in the respective columns, then we will click on generate summary and then submit it. Now, how do we file the GSTR3B return? GSTR3B, we will select the respective month and come to monthly GSTR3B. You have to file. You have not filed GSTR1 for the selected period. So we have to first file the 1, then it will allow us to file the 3B. So it means what? For December, GSTR1 has not been filed. That's why we are not able to proceed further. So even for this month, it is not filed. For October, this is where you can file your GSTR3B. Okay, so B2C intrastate, any value, in fact, exceeding 1 lakh to unregistered person, no GSTR1. No. It will be part of GSTR1, Hardik. Any supply you're making, to anybody, it will be part of your GSTR1. It is just that instead of giving invoice-wise details, you will give consolidated details. Okay, if you have sales of 20 lakhs in this month, 15 lakhs is to registered person, 5 lakhs is to unregistered person. So total 20 lakhs has to come in your GSTR1. There is no escape from that. 15 lakhs will come invoice wise, 5 lakhs, which is intrastate, will come consolidated wise. It will not come invoice wise, but as a consolidated, the total value what you will upload in GSTR1 has to be your total sales of 20 lakhs only. That cannot go wrong. That cannot go down. Okay. Do you want me to show GSTR3B on the portal? See, I will have to unmute everybody because if you do not participate, then that will not be a fruitful discussion, because showing somebody's portal's information is your interest. If you have interest, then we can show it to you. Because your classes will go on, your theoretical aspects will go on. I was thinking that if you have interest, then I can show you the practical aspect. Okay. So GSTR3B, first is your tax on outward and reverse charge inward supplies. If you go to this, you will see that your taxable outward supply numbers are getting auto-populated. Why? Because we filed GSTR1. In our GSTR1, total output will be there. From that output, this will come here. So whatever is my outward taxable supplies, which is other than zero rated, so which is taxable will come here, which is zero rated will come in the next column. So we have to mention whatever supply to SEZ and exports we are doing, that will come in 3.1B. And then other outward supplies, which is nil rated and exempt supplies. Fourth one is inward supplies, which is liable to reverse charge. Those supplies on which I have to pay reverse charge will still come here. And then non-GST outward supplies, right? Like sale of petrol products and alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Those details will come in non-GST outward supplies. So what are we seeing? Total outward supplies and supplies on which we have to pay reverse charge will come here. Okay, that is 3.1. Now, supply which is notified under 9.5 is for a e-commerce company. So the e-commerce company will mention those details here. Then interstate supplies, whatever is my interstate supplies, that I will disclose here, because I have already included in 3.1, but here each state has to get the credit. That's the reason each state wise I will mention the details here. Again, this will getting auto populated from my GSTR1, because in my GSTR1 what I'm doing, in case of B2C less than 1 lakh, I am disclosing state wise, and more than 1 lakh anyways I am mentioning the relevant state. Okay, then supplies made to composition taxpayers, supply made to UIN holders. Okay, then eligible ITC. So when you see the 3B, you will see that.
Sir, this composite supply, how can we know, sir? They are composite supplier like that. How can we know?
So when we are supplying to anybody, we have to get their registration certificate number, GST number, right? From the GST number, when we mention in the portal, we get to know whether they are composition taxpayer or non-composition taxpayer.
We have to do the search separately, na, sir? Not here.
Yes,
no? Separately,
correct,
we have to do search.
Separately, we'll have to check. Okay.
Whether
Then,
that is mentioned wrongly means whether it will make any issue, sir? Composite or non-composite. If you don't know, and if we put wrongly, whether it will make any penalty or like that?
it will be an invalid return, because your return is expected to be correct. So it will be an incorrect return. If you disclose sale to a composition taxpayer as a non-composition taxpayer, then the other person can claim the credit. Okay. So when you're supplying it to a non-composition taxpayer, let me mute. Okay. So when you're supplying to a composition taxpayer, it means that the other person will not get the credit. If you're disclosing it wrongly, then other person can claim the credit. That's why your disclosure should be correct. Okay. Now coming to ITC portion in our GSTR-3B, when we declare the ITC, we will declare the input tax we are getting from what sources. When you import goods, you can claim the credit IGST part. So that's why import of goods is there, then import of services. Then you have inward supplies, which is liable to reverse charge, that which we disclosed in our outward supplies, right? There we disclose what is the RCM payable, that will come here because we can claim the credit. Once we show there, it will automatically come and reflect here. Then inward supplies received from input service distributor, and then all other ITCs, which is the ITCs which we are eligible to claim. Any ITC other than import of goods, import of services from ISD, all our general input will come under this. So generally 4A5 will be the bigger amount. Okay. Then ITC reversal. We have discussed section 17.5 block credit, and then related rules are there, rule 38, 42 and 43, that will be coming over here, that all reversals will report here. Then any other reversals which we are supposed to do, that will come here. The balance will be the net ITC available. So this is the ITC which will go into our electronic credit ledger. Last 4D1 and 4D2 are the columns which is only for disclosure, which is ITC which is reclaimed, which was reversed earlier, disclosed here. Then ineligible ITC which is restricted to place of supply rules, again that will come here. So this is only a disclosure. Your total credit will go to your IGST, the electronic credit ledger will be 4C. Okay. Then all our exempt, nil rated and non-GST supplies we will mention here. And then interest and any fees will come over here. This is how the GSTR-3B and GSTR-1 looks on the portal. Yes, Hardik.
Sir, I have one doubt in RCM1 for claiming the ITC. Sir, for RCM, like we have to issue the invoice on our own, like self-invoicing is done. So, sir, self-invoicing is done on the basis of the time of supply that is provided under Rule 31, subsection 1, clause F.
Yes.
So, sir, according. So, sir, if by chance, if a person fails to make an invoice for himself with that prescribed time limit of 61 days, or in case of goods that 31 days, then sir, will he be able to get the ITC?
See, earlier there was no time limit. It is only brought in now. Okay. Earlier, Rule 36 said that any invoice which is issued in accordance with Section 31.3F. Now, 31.3F earlier did not have any time limit. Now they have imposed a time limit. So, when is this amendment happened? This amendment has happened within a period as may be prescribed is included in the finance bill, which is effective only in October 2024. So any invoice, self-invoice which you are raising now, after that amendment, then you cannot claim the credit. But invoices issued before that, say 2017, you have a reverse charge, but you have claimed it in 2019. That would have still been a valid claim. But after this amendment, which is relevant for you, after 2024 budget amendment that we have to raise the invoice within 30 days, otherwise the credit will not be available.
Sir, we have to remember these dates also of amendment. By chance, if the question comes
No, it's only for your information.
Okay, sir. And sir, one more doubt. In case of revocation and cancellation, that recent notification which came, in case of revocation, if by chance, if because of I have done some mischief, the proper officer has cancelled my GSTR, but within 7 days I have provided him the information that I have not done it. Then, sir, when the proper officer revoked that cancellation for the intervening period, within 30 days, or sir within 30th November or for date of filing, or both have to be seen for claiming the ITC?
30th November 2021, right? So it is only relevant for the period 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20 and 2021.
Okay, sir.
So only for these 4 years you have to consider November 2021, that by November 21 you can claim the credit.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. October to study material, Mahi, there is updated a new study material on the portal for the May 2025 batch. So in that you will see all the amendments are mentioned in that. So kindly download the latest study material which is there on the portal, which will be helpful for you. Okay, so now let's continue where we left from in the last session. So we were discussing on GSTR 2A. We understood what is GSTR 2B, what is GSTR 2A, and what is the difference. So when will GSTR 2 be available? So we have seen that when you're a quarterly filer, then by the 13th, and if you're a monthly filer, also by the 13th, because whichever is later comes as 13th. So by the 14th, you can download your GSTR 2B. Now, furnishing your returns. This you have already seen practically. So now if I explain to you, you will understand this in a much, much better manner. Okay. So furnishing of returns in 3B is that the who is eligible to file, every registered person other than a ISD or a NRTP or a composition dealer or a TDS payer or a TCS payer is a person who is required to file the GSTR 3B returns, and a QRMP person who is opted for QRMP, he will file the GSTR 3B on a quarterly basis. In what form? In this GSTR 3B, which is your regular return, it will have summary, because in 3B you don't have any detailed discussions or any detailed values to be mentioned. We have to give a consolidated value of what? Summary. A consolidation is equal to a summary of our outward supplies, a summary of our inward supplies, which summary of inward supplies which is liable to reverse charge, eligible input tax credit, and details of payment of taxes. This is what we will disclose in our GSTR 3B. Of course, much detailed one you got to know, but on a broader level, you will disclose 4 things: your outward supplies, inward supplies liable to reverse charge, then inward supplies on which we can claim ITC, and then payment of tax details. Okay. What is the due date? For monthly filers, it is 20th, and for quarterly, it is 22nd or 24th, depending on which state you are there. Okay. Registered persons where principal place of business is Chhattisgarh and things, then it is 22nd. For other cities, it is 24th. Now, QRMP scheme also we have discussed majorly, where your turnover is below 5 crores. Then you can furnish 3B and 1 on a quarterly basis. Interim, you have to file a IFF up to a value of 50 lakh rupees, and you are opting for QRMP scheme, you can do it each GSTN wise, not necessary like our composition scheme where all India one kind of system only you have to follow. But QRMP, one GSTN we can do quarterly, one GSTN you can do monthly. That is permitted. Then registered persons who have furnished the return for the month preceding month on the date of exercising this option, that is from the second day of the quarter till the last day of the quarter, you can change the option. You can go for the option of filing a QRMP return. Once you are opted for QRMP, you don't have to keep entering it that you want to go for QRMP. Once you are QRMP, you are always a QRMP person who will file your returns on a quarterly basis. And if your turnover crosses 5 crores, you will be automatically out of QRMP, which means from that day onwards, you have to file your GSTR 3B on a monthly basis. Okay, you can voluntarily opt out for monthly filing, not only when your turnover crosses 5 crores, voluntary also. Somebody was saying, sir, you have to file GSTR 1, you have to file IFF, you have to file GSTR 3B, so many returns. So I'll go for monthly return filing only. Yes, you can go for it. So this is the broad structure of QRMP scheme. This we had discussed. In your GSTR 3B, what do we give? So if you see GSTN of the business, legal name and tax period, this is coming in the first screen itself. So when we went to the GST portal, we saw these details we didn't enter because your GSTN and legal name will always be there. Once you are registered, those details are with them. They will not ask for this again. But when you print, after filing, when you print your GSTR 3B return, these details will be relevant because whose return it is, we need to know. That's why GSTN of the business and legal name and trade name will always appear. Then the tax period we have selected. So that's why we went into that return, that specific month's return, like November 2024, December 2024. We have selected it, then gone into it. Okay. What are the details of supply? The supply summary details of your outward supply. Everything is summary here. Summary details of outward supplies. Inward supplies liable to reverse charge. Interstate supply made to unregistered persons, composition taxpayers, and UIN holders. Eligible ITC will be bifurcated as ITC which is available, ITC which is reversed, then that is your net ITC, and a separate disclosure of our ineligible ITC. Then point number 5 will be any value of our exempt turnover, because first what are we giving? We are giving summarized details of outward supplies, which will be only taxable details. The breakup of exempt, nil rated and non-GST will come in point number 5. Then 6th number will be payment of tax, and 7 will be any TDS and TCS which the other person is deducted, for which you have to claim the credit. That will come in your TDS and TCS credit. So nil returns, I showed you an option that saying that there is a nil returns option. Now, when you don't have any turnover, you have to still file your nil returns. So filing of nil return is mandatory. If it is exempt supply, then no GST liability, then it is not a nil return. Can somebody explain me why is this not a nil return then? Because there is no tax payable. Still, why is it not a nil return?
The turnover details to be mentioned, sir, there.
Okay, but tax is not there.
But details to be given compulsorily. In nil return, we cannot give details.
Correct. So when it is exempt supply also, what is the value of exempt supply we have to give? Right? Because when we have exempt supply, our input tax credit also gets restricted. So you will not file nil return. You will file a regular return and mention the details of the supplies which are exempted. Then similarly, nil 3B and nil GSTR 1 can be filed on through a mobile itself, through sending up a SMS. Revised return, there is no provision of revised return. So now we have an option of GSTR 1A, but That is only in terms of GSTR 1 changes we can do in GSTR 1A. But when it comes to GSTR 3B, there is no filing of a revised return in case of a GSTR 3B. Okay. Now, after we understood the regular monthly return in 3B, let's get into the return what a composition taxpayer has to file. Firstly, it is a annual return quarterly payment. Okay. So, annual return will be filed in form GSTR 4. GSTR 3B is for regular filers. GSTR 4 is for a composition taxpayer. Yearly, पूरे साल का, from April to March, he has to file it by the 30th of April. Okay, it is to be filed by a composition taxpayer who is registered under Section 10. It could be a composition taxpayer of goods or a composition taxpayer of services. And payment to quarterly karna padega. Like how our QRMP scheme says quarterly returns, but monthly payments. Similarly, for a composition taxpayer, annual returns, quarterly payments. So April, May, June will be the first quarter. For the April, May, June sales, whatever is making, if he is a trader, he'll pay 1% tax. That he will file a return or a statement in GST CMP 08 by the 18th of the month. Okay. This is your composition taxpayer's return. So quarterly payment, once a quarter gets over, then the next month, April, May, June के लिए 18th July को आप pay करोगे, and July, August, September के लिए 18th October को you will make the payment. Okay. Inward supplies are auto-populated, but any case you cannot claim the input tax credit. But since supplier is supplying to you, it will just auto-populate there. What are the details we will see in a QRMP's return? Legal name, GSTN of a payment monthly. नहीं माही, payment monthly नहीं है. Payment is quarterly itself.
Sir, composite person need not give any invoice details, no, sir?
Yeah, he will not give invoice-wise details, sir. So
whatever may be
he
the
will
amount.
have to give, because if you see in the next slide, first is this basic details, GSTN, legal name, tax period, TDS, what is the refund claim. Then invoice-wise details of all inward supplies. He doesn't have to give. So he will have to give invoice-wise details of his inward supplies from registered persons. Inward supplies on which tax is to be paid on reverse charge. He will pay reverse charge, so that will come. So his sales, fourth point, consolidated tax rate-wise details, because whenever he's supplying the other person, like how Sai sir is saying that he cannot claim the credit. So when he is supplying to somebody, the other person cannot claim it. So he will give a consolidated outward supply details. And then summary of self-assessed liability as per CMP 08. Whatever is this tax liability, net of advances, credit and debit notes, any adjustments due to amendments, this will all come here. Then,
sir, first point in 2B, it will come automatically, sir, for registered only, unregistered, you have to give a composite person.
For a composition person, his GSTR 2A will auto-populate, sir.
No, I'm telling you, first point inward supplies from registered parties and unregistered persons is given. Registered person will come automatically. Unregistered person we have to give. I'm telling.
Correct, sir. Because if the registered person has given the GSTN of the composition taxpayer, then it will come.
Like that, I'm telling.
Correct, sir.
For first point, I'm telling.
Yes. And this due date for a composition taxpayer, earlier it was by the 30th of April. Now it is by the 30th day of June. So we'll
Sir,
just
what is this net of advances, sir? What is meant by this net of advances?
Summary of self-assessed liability, net of advances. So somebody has given you an advance. Okay. When you have received advance for services, you have to pay GST. Correct? Say
Yes,
you have agreed for 1 lakh rupee of services you will provide. You have received advance before you raise an invoice. On the advance, you will pay the GST.
yes,
Correct?
sir.
So you have received advance of 30,000. On this, you have paid the GST. Second month, you have raised an invoice for 1 lakh rupees. But in that 1 lakh rupees, 30,000 you have already offered to tax. So from this 1 lakh, you reduce that 30,000, and the net of this advances balance is 70,000. So this month, you have to disclose your liability only on 70,000 rupees. Okay.
Okay.
So this is how you will give your summary of self-assessed liability. So here, if you see, it is 30th of June.
Sir, for a composite person, both for exempted and non-exempted, everything you have to pay tax. Now that point was not came, sir. Previous screen.
Correct, sir. Because that is part of valuation. In valuation, we have discussed saying that
Yes.
what is the difference between a composition trader and a composition manufacturer. Okay. If it
Yes,
is a
sir.
manufacturer on total supplies, including exempt supply, he will have to pay. For a
Yes,
trader,
sir.
he'll pay only on the taxable
Yes,
supply.
sir. Okay, okay, sir.
So this is the details what we'll give for a composition taxpayer. So some people are uploading bills, then it shows GSTR 2B. Some people not uploading, it's not showing in GSTR 3B. Then this bill taken or not. So in your GSTR 2B, the provisions of section 16 says that if it is appearing in your GSTR 2B, only then you should take it. So if it is not appearing in your GSTR 2B, then you're not supposed to take it. Page 3 not clear, sir. Any example? Point number 3, summary of self-assessed liability. So whatever is the liability of a composition taxpayer. So whatever receipts he has, because he can raise a sales invoice, so that will come here. Net of advances, which I've already explained. Then if he's having saying that okay, instead of 1 lakh invoice which I should have raised, I've raised only for 90,000 rupees. So will he not raise for differential of 10,000 if he's a composition taxpayer? He will still raise it, right? Because the value agreed was 1 lakh rupees. By mistake, I mentioned as 90,000 rupees. Now I cannot tear that invoice, and I've already raised the invoice and I've given to my customer. So once I raise for 90,000 rupees, for the differential 10,000 rupees, I will raise a debit note. So I will raise a debit for 10,000 and get the amount. Now, if I've raised an invoice higher than 90,000 rupees, or the actual value is 1 lakh, I've raised for higher value. Then I have to bring it down. Customer is shouting at me saying that we had agreed at 1 lakh. Why did you give me a sale invoice of 1,20,000 rupees? So, okay, don't worry, I'll give you a credit note. You pay me only 1 lakh. So, on that differential of 20,000, I will raise a credit note. So, that in documents also has to be considered in my self-assessed liability return. So I will consider total sales, reduce the advances on which I have already paid the tax, add my debit note and reduce my credit note. That is what will be the summary of my self-assessed liability.
So this composite dealer can issue only financial credit note only, na?
No, he can give GST credit note also, sir. Because anyways, the recipient cannot claim the ITC. So when he is issuing the invoice, so he can give a GST credit note itself.
Okay.
That net advance part, Hardik, are you clear now? Okay. What is your doubt?
Sir, sir, net advances means that any advance which is given by composition dealer before any taxable supply.
No, not by a composition taxpayer, by the customer of the composition taxpayer. Because composition taxpayer is making the sale. He will not give advance to anybody. He will get advance from his customers.
Okay, sir.
So once he receives advances, he has to pay GST because time of supply we have discussed. In case of services.
Okay, sir. Now what?
On advance you have to pay. So advance you have paid. Now invoice ke upar you will not pay the full tax again. You will reduce the advances. That is called as net of advances.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Now got it.
Thank you. Vinuta, in the new scheme website, it's not showing. It is showing. No, just check. I just downloaded the book before starting the class just to have a cross check. It is allowing to download the May 2025 book as well.
So when that GST credit note is issued by composite supplier, that GST rate collected for that invoice will be reversed, sir?
The GST is not collected only, sir, by a composition taxpayer firstly.
No, he is paying, na? What he is paying, it will be reversed, na?
No. Yeah, whatever he is paying, that will be reversed. But it will not appear in the invoice. Okay. Now we know who is a regular taxpayer and who is a composition taxpayer, right? Now we know that a regular taxpayer can shift to a composite taxpayer. Okay. So what happens when a regular taxpayer gets transformed to a composition taxpayer? That is, a regular taxpayer is opting for composition taxpayer. Then statements are returned relating to the period prior to him becoming a composition scheme. He has to file what? He has to file till the date of furnishing the return, till due date of furnishing the return for the month of September of the succeeding financial year of furnishing annual return, whichever is earlier. He has to file a statement or a return relating to the period prior to opting for composition scheme. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है कि his regular returns are outstanding and now he's going to composition. If such returns are outstanding, then he has to file it by the September of the succeeding financial year or the due date of furnishing annual return, whichever is earlier. Okay, so this cannot be a escape route saying that my returns I will not file and I will save the tax, or if I file it late, there will be a lot of penalty. Let me move to the composition scheme. So that loophole is not there, because once you move from regular taxpayer to a composition taxpayer, then when you're moving, the whatever is the returns for the previous regime, that is in your regular taxpayer, all of that has to be filed by the September of the succeeding month. And when you're moving from composition to regular.
Sir, now it is November 30th, now it will be October, na, sir?
So the due date of furnishing return still remains September, sir. That will not change. Let me just check in the new.
30th November for annual return, sir. So October return with the last chance, I'm telling, sir. October return is the last chance for modification.
So
That I'm
that
telling.
is for your claiming of input tax credit, sir.
Whatever may be for modifications, I'm telling, sir. Previous year modifications.
So we are not talking about previous year modifications. We are saying that when you are moving from a normal taxpayer to a composition taxpayer, okay, then say you have moved from normal taxpayer to composition taxpayer. Of course, it can happen only from the 1st of April. So till 31st March 2024, you are a regular taxpayer. And from 1st April 2024, you are moving to a composition taxpayer. Okay. So from 1st April, you have to file your composition returns. But before filing that, say Jan, Feb and March returns you have not filed. So you have to file by the September's due date, which is 20th October, or the annual return filing, whichever is earlier. So you have to file effectively by the 20th, because it says whichever is earlier. So March, Jan, Feb and March return, you have to file by 30th of September due date, which is October 20th. We are not talking about composition, sir. We are not talking about correction. We're just saying what is when you're opting from regular to composition taxpayer, whatever are the previous returns which is due, you have to file it by the September of the succeeding financial year.
Oh, it is a separate due date. Okay.
Separate, yes. Then when we move out from composition to regular, then what happens? We have to exit from the composition scheme and file a statement called as GST CMP 08 for the period prior to exit from composition scheme to be filed by the 18th day of the month succeeding the quarter in which the date of withdrawal falls. So when I have to file my regular returns when I move from regular to composition, similarly when I move from composition to regular, which is one annual return I have to file it by the 18th day of the month succeeding the quarter in which the date of withdrawal falls. So if I withdraw it on say second quarter, July, August, September, if I've withdrawn on July, then I have to file the return from the April till the July when on the due date of the July quarter. July quarter falls from July, August, September. So by 18th October, I have to file this GST CMP 08. Okay. And GSTR 4 for the period prior to exit from composition scheme to be filed by the 30th of April. So CMP 08 is the payment due date and GSTR 4 is the return which a composition taxpayer files. So CMP have to file by quarterly. That is the 18th day of the month succeeding the quarter in which the date of withdrawal falls. So if it is in our example June, in our example July, then July, August, September. So by 18th October, you make the payment and file your CMP 08. And whatever sales is there in this month, in during that period, you have to report in your GSTR 4. Okay, this will happen by the 30th April. Now, of course, this will be changed to 30th June.
Sir, here CMP 08 on change from composite to regular. For if you withdraw during the month of July, you have to file the CMP 08 in the month of October 20th by October 18th. But
Correct.
For August GSTR 1, you have to file regularly. That is different, sir. You have to file August GSTR 1 in September 10th. Like that, it will be there, no?
Correct, sir. But for a composition taxpayer, GSTR 1 and 3B is not there. They will file only GSTR.
Here withdrawn.
Correct, sir.
From composite, it has come to regular. So both
Correct.
CMP 08 and GSTR 1, both you have to file simultaneously, I am telling.
Correct. For the past period, CMP 08. For the period under regular tax, he will have to file
For
GSTR.
August and September, GSTR 1 he has to file.
Correct, sir. Okay. Now composition, you are there. How will your registration under composition can cancel? You will voluntarily switch it out or you will cancel your registration. Okay. But if a officer wants to cancel, he can also do the cancellation. Okay. As per section 29(2), a proper officer may cancel the registration of a registered person if a person paying tax under composition scheme has not furnished his GSTR 4, is not furnished his GSTR 4 for a financial year beyond the 3 months from the due date. The due date is now 30th June. So by July, August, September. By September also, if you do not file a GSTR 4, then you are liable for cancellation. Okay. So in our regular returns, if we do not file it within, if you have not filed 2 consecutive quarterly returns or 6 monthly returns, then our registration get cancelled. Here it's only 1 annual return, so they cannot wait till your next return is getting due. So they've said that within 3 months, if you do not file, then your registration gets cancelled. Now getting into returns for NRTP. Now major returns is completed. We'll take a break of 10 minutes and then we will cover all this other returns. Okay, let's continue our discussion. So we understood for composition taxpayer. Now let us move to a non-registered, non-resident taxpayer person. NRTP is a non-resident taxable person. What is the return he will file? A person who has come to India, make supplies in India, and they do not have a business establishment in India. They are called as a non-resident taxable person. They do not file GSTR-3B, but whatever turnover they have for which they have to pay the taxes, they will file a GSTR-5. It's a simple return to be filed when by 20 days from the end of the calendar month, because their registration is only for temporary, that is 90 plus 90 days. We all know this. So their return, whatever sales they have made in between the year they have started or beginning of the month they have started, whenever they have started, for that month by the 20th they will file the return. And for the last return, because yes sir,
both GSTR 3B and GSTR 1 both will not be there, sir, for them.
Yes sir, only GSTR file will be there. So within that 20 days they will file, and if the validity period lapses, say it lapses in between, they've started on say 15th and by the 15th of a particular month it lapses. So for that they don't have to wait for the month. The validity when it expires, in that case it will be 7 days from the last date of validity period, because they will run away otherwise. So within 7 days from the validity period, the last day of the validity period, they have to file their last return. Okay, it contains only output and input details. Can NRTP claim the input tax credit? We had discussed this. Only input tax in the ITC we have discussed. NRTP cannot claim locally procured input tax credit. Whatever goods they are importing, only on that they can claim the input tax credit. And very important, everybody has to file a annual return, but this NRTP is not required to file a annual return. Okay. Now return filing by a TDS payer. Okay, a person who is deducting TDS, GSTR 7. TDS is deducted under section 51 by the supplies what we make to the government for a value about 2,50,000 rupees. A TDS deductor will generally be a government entity. He shall furnish a monthly return in GSTR 7. So what will this GSTR 7? Is it a monthly sales return? No. GSTR 7 is a return which he will disclose that who are all the suppliers from whom he has procured for value about 2,50,000 rupees, and he has to deduct the TDS. So that details will come in GSTR 7. And what is the last date for GSTR 7? Like how we have income tax TDS by the 7th year, the same 7 is the return GSTR 7, but the date is by the 10th of the end of the month. So September's TDS deducted has to be filed by the 10th of October. And once he files the returns, the TDS what is deducted will be available electronically to the deductees on the common portal, and they can claim it in their electronic cash ledger. This amount is of course used for payment of any taxes or any other liability, because it gets added to your cash ledger. And once TDS has been returned, has been filed, they have to give a certificate in GSTR 7A to the recipient. Then similarly to a TDS, we have a provision of TCS. The TCS person will file the next return, that is GSTR 8. GSTR 7 is for TDS, GSTR 8 is for TCS deductors. That is when you're supplying it through an e-commerce operator will deduct the TCS. The last date of filing again is on the 10th, subsequent a month. The TCS collected shall be made available electronically on the common portal, again on the electronic cash ledger. And if any errors are observed, saying that I have to get more TCS but you have deducted less, that they can adjust it in the subsequent GSTR 8 return. Okay. The rectification is not allowed because they can rectify, but not beyond 30th of November. or the due date of filing annual return, whichever is earlier. So these were the returns. Now we'll move on to payment of taxes. What are the due dates for payment of taxes? Every registered person who is required to file, they will have a due date for GSTR 3B, 5 and 7 are all due dates, and whatever is the due date for filing these returns, that is itself is the due date for payment also. So you do not have that you have a due date for filing return as one day and due date of payment subsequently. No, that is not there. So whatever is the due date for filing of the return, that itself is the due date for payment of taxes. However, in case of QRMP, it will be different because QRMP, they have to pay the payment quarterly but file the returns annually.
Sir, here GSTR 8 not comes.
GSTR 8, only in this case, revision of invoice is permitted. No other cases you can revise your return. You cannot revise your invoices. Only in this case, you can revise your invoice.
In other case, the amendment to be done in GSTR once.
Correct. Either do an amendment or issue a credit note or debit note. Now, annual return. All registered person except casual taxable person, non-resident taxable person, input service distributor. So we had discussed that NRTP is not required to file annual return, but casual taxable person also is not required because they are all temporary registrations. They get only a time period of 90 plus 90, 180 days maximum. So they do not have to file an annual return. A CTP, a NRTP, similarly, an input service distributor, because whatever credit he gets it, he will distribute it. And a person collecting TCS and TDS and OIDAR. So these are the 5 people who will not file your annual return. Very important, this may come for your MCQ, saying that who are the following persons who are not liable for annual returns.
Sir, this persons collecting TCS, TDS, a particular person will have 2-3 GSTs. Now only for that particular GST.
What are the documents? If your aggregate turnover is more than 5 crores, then file. So GSTR 9, here there is no limit, but yearly we have a notification saying that if your turnover is more than 2 crores, then you have to file compulsorily. For below 2 crores, it is optional. Okay. And if your turnover is more than 5 crores, then you have to file a certified annual reconciliation statement in a form called GSTR 9C. So 9A will be optional for a taxpayer whose turnover is below 2 crores. From 2 crores to 5 crores, 9 and 9A has to be compulsory filed. And if your turnover is more than 5 crores, then you have to file 9 or 9A, which is applicable for you, and 9C. So if you are a regular taxpayer, more than 5 crores, you will file 9 and 9C. If you are a composition supplier, you will file 9A and 9C. Okay. What is this 9C? It is a reconciliation between your audited financials and your supplies, what you are declared in your GSTR 9. Okay. The due date is 31st December. So after annual return you have filed, now you are in the verge of closing out. You want to cancel your registration. Then a registered person whose registration is cancelled or surrendered within 3 months of the cancellation or the date of order of cancellation, whichever is later, your date of cancellation or your date of order of cancellation, whichever is later, within 3 months from that date, you have to file a final return. In what form? In GSTR 10. So you have filed your monthly returns and everything is fine. But still, after you get an order for cancellation, you have to file your final return. Okay. Many people they have seen practically, they will go for cancellation and they will get a cancellation order, but this final return is not filed. So you have to be careful as practitioners that you file the final return for a person whose registration is cancelled. Okay. By what are the details of inward supplies by a UIN holder? He has to file a return in GSTR 11 because UIN holder cannot make any outward supplies. They'll have only expenses and purchases. They will file a return in form GSTR 11 and say what all purchases or expenses they've incurred on which GST is collected by the suppliers, and on that they will claim the refund. Now, since this is a benefit, and this will be auto-populated, and they're not allowed to add or modify any details in their GSTR 11. Once they have filed it, they have to live with it. So they have to be very careful while filing this. What are the important points for all the returns is, a return is considered as a valid return only when the self-assessed tax has been paid in full. So, like our income tax return, when we file the return and don't make the payment, it will be called as a defective return. Similarly, in GST also, there is no option available that without payment you can file the return, but still they are giving a precautious thing saying that a return will be treated as a valid return only when the self-assessed tax has been paid in full, that is either through cash ledger or credit ledger, but whatever is your liability has been fulfilled. Only then it is a valid return. And you cannot file your current month return without filing your previous return. You have to file a previous return. Only then current year returns can be filed. So whatever outstanding returns are there, you have to file that first, then file current month's return. Return has to be electronically signed because it has to be certified saying that yes, you have actually mentioned the details and you have certified it. So it has to be signed by the digital signature certificate of the authorized signatory. When you apply for registration, you have to designate one person as the authorized signatory. His DSC can be used, or it could be through a e-sign option. That is, if it's a Aadhaar-based OTP, and third is through a electronic verification code. You don't have to physically sign on any return. Any of these modes is also treated as a valid signing itself. Okay, so one of these three modes will be used for signing the returns. Other points to remember is where the taxable person or a taxpayer has multiple registrations in a state, they have to file not one return, they have to file separate returns for each registration, right? We know that a person having multiple branches in a state can either have one registration or it can have multiple registrations. If he has one registration for 10 branches, he will file one return. If he has multiple registrations in a branch, for each GSTIN number, he has to file a return. All returns has to be filed online only. Annual returns are based on the financial statements and not just total of the tax period. Saying that, okay, I've already filed monthly returns, why should I file annual returns? It is that you should check your data, you should check your information. That's why annual returns is just not a reproduction of your monthly returns. It has certain more information. Then common return, yes, you do not have to file separate returns for CGST, SGST, IGST. One return giving the details of all the three. No revised returns. Of course, now GSTR 1, after GSTR 1, we have got GSTR 1A. But for GSTR 3B, we don't have any revision possible. Only for GSTR 1, corrections can be made through GSTR 1A. And nil return is mandatory to file in case of no transactions. Non-filing of returns leads to assessments of tax, penalties, and even cancellation. If you do not file your returns, then the officer can do a best judgment assessment saying that based on your tax, based on your previous returns, he can do an assessment called as best judgment assessment, and he can actually say that this is your liability. So when you don't file your returns and you've got an intimation like that, be careful, because once they do best judgment, then you are helpless. So that's why your return has to be filed once you get an intimation. And we know that a composition taxpayer, 3 months beyond the due date, his registration gets cancelled. Regular taxpayer, 6 months of non-filing, and for a QRMP, 2 consecutive tax periods non-filing will lead to cancellation of registration. So returns, that's way, are very crucial. It's not just that compliance, non-compliance would lead to cancellation of your registration as well. late filing allowed, that the due dates what we have said, beyond this can we file the returns? Yes, you can file it, but you have to pay the late fees for it. There is a default in furnishing returns. When a notice is issued electronically to a registered person who has failed to furnish any of the following returns, then the notice may require to file it. We generally file the returns, but sometimes if a return is defaulted, you may get a notice, then you have to file this monthly returns. Normal monthly returns to be filed under 39. A notice can come for non-filing of return, non-filing of annual return, or non-filing of final return, or non-filing of a TCS return. So if you get these specific notices, you have to file this specific returns. Now what happens? There is a delay in filing. Then we were talking about late filing fees. If you do not file your statement of outward supply, that is GSTR1, or you don't file the monthly returns in GSTR3B, or you don't file your annual final return in GSTR10, or your TCS and TDS statement, then there is a late filing fees of rupees 100 per day or rupees 5,000, whichever is higher. And if you do not file your annual return, so for all other returns, it is just 100 rupees per day or maximum 5,000 rupees. But in case of annual return, it is 100 rupees per day or 0.25% of the turnover, whichever is less. Okay, so only in case of annual return, it is percentage of the turnover. But in case of your TDS and monthly return, it is capped at 5,000 rupees. But this is only for CGST, so you have to double it up because you're filing return for CGST and SGST. So it will be 5 plus 5. Okay, but will it apply for C, S and I both? So should I pay 3 times then? But I'm filing a consolidated return under CGST, SGST and IGST. So ideally, if I say 100 rupees for CGST, then when I'm saying applicable for SGST also, then why not for IGST? No, sir, because CGST plus SGST plus IGST. So what if CGST plus SGST is equal to IGST? Each law is different, right? Any answer? Waived off by central government? No. So the reason is, if you see in the CGST Act, there is a return to be filed and there is a late filing fees for in the CGST Act. The CGST Act is copied or replicated by all the states. So you have a same provision under the SGST Act. So CGST Act will have a replication under the SGST Act. That's why it's doubled. But in IGST Act, there is section 20 which says that whatever returns you file under CGST, that will be considered as a return under IGST. So once that provision is there, so there is no requirement of another late filing fees under IGST law. CGST law or the CGST return itself is treated as a return for the IGST law also. That's why the late filing fees or the tax rate, when we say, it will be half under CGST and half under SGST. No separate return under IGST. So it's not into 3, it's just whatever is the rate into 2. Okay. Now late filing fees, this is happening that every time it gets changed. So these are the numbers which you will have to remember. Delay in filing of GST or 3B, because commissioner has a power to waive off. So whenever they have power, this gets waived off. So these are all the numbers which you will have to remember for each return. Now we'll get into GST practitioner. Very simple, small aspect, that when a person who is a Indian citizen, who is of solvent mind and not convicted for any offense with imprisonment for a period more than 2 years, and he is either a graduate or a postgraduate in commerce or retired state commercial or CBEC tax officer, or person who's having any degree or passed the final examination of our institute, our neighbor's institute, or the cost accountants institute, then he can become a GST practitioner. So GST practitioner, you have competition from various people. You are not only the one who can become a GST practitioner. There are graduates or PGs in commerce. If they write some certain exam, they can become a GST practitioner. Okay. GST practitioner is a designation, but as a GST consultant, you can consult the clients. So there is no threat as such. Okay. But as a GST practitioners, what advantages you get? You should have a prescribed qualification. This is on the qualification limit. How does what all things you can do? You can firstly furnish the details of outward and inward supplies. You can file the returns from your login by getting a access from the client saying that, okay, I am designated, I am a taxpayer, I am designating a person as a tax practitioner. So he will give you his access. From there, you can file his GST returns, furnish monthly, annual, or final returns, make deposit of taxes, furnish information for generation of e-waybill, furnish details of challans, file an application for amendment, file an intimation to pay tax under composition scheme. That is, when you want to convert from regular to taxpayer, you can do it. File a claim for refund and file an application. But for all of this, allowed to appear as authorized representative. So once any notices come, you can appear as an authorized representative also. And when you're filing a claim of refund or application, confirmation from the registered person will be sought. That is, the registered person will seek for a confirmation. Okay, so these are the advantages of a GST practitioner. Now, how do you become a GST practitioner? An application in the prescribed form may be made electronically through the common portal for enrollment as a GSTP, which is GST practitioner. The application will be scrutinized and GSTP certificate will be will be granted. If it is cancelled, then the proper officer will give reasons. The enrollment once done remains valid. So there is no annual renewal as such. Once you have a GST practitioner certificate, it will be valid forever. No person enrolled as a GSTP is eligible to remain enrolled unless he passes such examination. So once you enroll, then you have to write a examination, and that examination will give you a confirmation that you are a GST practitioner. Once you enroll within a period of 30 months, that is within a period of 5 years, you have to write and pass this examination. That is on GST practitioners. So the advantage is that yes, you can file the returns on behalf of the clients. Yes, Hardik. You can ask your doubts, then we'll go to the MCQs.
Sir, my first doubt is in relation to the previous class, sir, for Rule 88D.
Right.
Sir, in Rule 88D, if GSTR 2B is greater than GSTR 3B, then a show cause notice was there, and within 7 days you have to reply. But sir,
Correct.
if the person does not apply within 7 days, then sir, like in Rule 88C, GSTR 1 and 1A used to be blocked. So sir, will the GSTR 2B will it be also blocked?
No, GSTR 2B will not be blocked. The law says only GSTR 1 and 3B, only that will be blocked.
So sir, then sir, like penalties under 73, 74, 122 will apply.
That cannot apply directly. That they'll have to give a notice and follow the procedure under 73, give a show cause notice, adjudicate it, then they can apply the penalty.
Okay, sir. So sir, no blockage would be there.
No blockage in the sense?
Like sir, GSTR 2B getting blocked, same as GSTR 1.
Correct. Correct. But GSTR 2B, only with GSTR 2B, you cannot do anything. To claim the credit in GSTR 2B, you have to file your GSTR 3B.
Yes, sir.
So you can only see the credits, but you cannot claim the credit.
Okay, sir. Sir, my second doubt is in relation to sir that QRMP one. Sir, the payment of taxes. Sir, they are divided like in fixed sum. Sir, I am not able to understand the tax liability paid in cash at the time of final return of in the year.
Okay.
And sir, second one is the liability of interest. Sir, any practical example?
Yeah, so you take some numbers. So your liability in the previous month was 1,50,000 rupees for the previous quarter. Okay. Now in the previous quarter, liability was 1,50,000 rupees. 50,000 you have paid through credit and 1 lakh you have paid through cash. Okay. So
Yes,
your liability of previous month on that 35% will be considered as your if you're going for the fixed sum method, 35% will be the liability payable for this first month. Second month, 35%.
sir, 1,50,000 into 35%.
Correct.
Okay, sir.
Show you that. Not 1,50,000. It says tax paid in cash. So 50,000 you're paid through credit.
So,
Only 1 lakh on 1 lakh 35%, which is 35,000. Okay. So 35,000 will be payable irrespective of your current quarter sales. Okay. Because you are under QRMP, you are opting for fixed sum method.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 35,000 of the tax will be payable in the first quarter and 35,000 in the second quarter.
Yes, sir.
Now, that is option 1, you pay by cash. Now, if you say that I do not want to pay by cash and I have sufficient credit in my electronic credit ledger. Say for example, you have 40,000 of credit. First month our liability was 35,000 rupees. So 40,000 covers that up.
Yes,
No
sir.
need of any payment. Second quarter again is 35,000. 35 plus 35, 70,000. Now you have credit balance of 40,000. Correct? So balance 30,000 you will have to make deposit in your cash ledger.
Okay, sir.
And in the third quarter, do the actual calculation. If your liability comes to 2 lakhs, reduce the whatever is the balance in your credit ledger, balance in your cash ledger, balance you will make the payment to cash.
Third month.
Third month of the quarter.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. And sir, that tax liability paid in cash in return, that line also, sir.
Second option, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So second option is when you do a self-assessment, then you will pay
that. Self-assessment I understood, sir. Insert
Hmm.
that tax liability paid in cash in return for the last month of the immediately preceding quarter, where the return was furnished monthly.
Right. So in fix sum method, you are a QRMP filer for the last quarter. So we know that 35% of the total liability for the last quarter ka 35% we will take.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, till the last quarter, you were a monthly filer. You opted for QRMP in this quarter. Okay. So
Yes.
last return, what you filed was not a quarterly return, but it was a monthly return.
Okay, sir.
So there we will not take quarterly. We will take what was the liability paid in the last quarter's last month. The other last return, what you had filed, that was a monthly return. We will
Yes.
take the total liability paid in cash of that last month's return and consider 100%.
So, sir, like I have paid 10,000 rupees last month in cash. I was a regular. Then in this month, I converted myself into QRMP. So, full 10,000 I have to pay in this succeeding 2 months.
Correct.
Okay, sir. And, sir, interest liability.
Interest liability, it comes when you have to pay 35,000 rupees in our first example.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you have paid it on time or you had that sufficient credit ledger, then no interest liability.
Yes.
If you pay it after 25th, like in our second quarter, there was 30,000 which was payable.
Yes,
Instead
sir.
of paying on the 25th, you have paid it on the 30th. So from 25th to 30th, for 5 days, interest will be applicable.
18%.
18%, yes.
Okay, sir. Sir, like they are saying that fixed sum amount for first 2 months of the quarter is paid by the due date. So, sir, this means that for the first 2 months, that estimated tax liability on the basis of the preceding quarter, if not
Correct.
paid in current quarter till 25th, then tax liability will arise.
Interest will arise.
Interest will arise.
Correct.
Okay. And sir, last is for the NRTP, sir. That's it, NRTP. In sir, last date of filing of the return in NRTP, it is written that the GSTR file should be furnished within 13 days after the end of the calendar month or within 7 days after the last day of the validity period of the registration, whichever is earlier. And
Right.
As per Rule 63, GSTR file needs to be furnished within 20 days after the end of the tax period or within 7 days. Sir, they are two different dates, sir.
So one is for payment and one is for filing.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
So date of filing for the month, you have to file it by the 20th.
Okay, sir.
And when the validity period is in between a month or whenever the validity period is expiring, for that you will not consider 20 days, you will consider 7 days from the last date of the validity period.
So, sir, 13 days is of no use.
13 days, 1 minute, I will see it. 13 days. Okay, this 20 days itself is now reduced to 13 days.
Yes.
So GSTR file is the only return. This 20 days will become 13 days from the end of the calendar month.
So, sir, usually when an NRTP enters into like registration, he enters for a minimum period of 90 days if nothing is specified. So, sir,
Right.
3 months is there. So, for a first month, the return will be filed till 13th of the succeeding month.
Correct.
But for the last month of his validity period, if he takes an extension up to 6 months, that is maximum, then, sir, for the 5th month, he have to file it preceding 7 days.
For the 5th month, you had extension for 90 days. Now you've got extended for another 90 days or 60 days?
90 days. Full
90 days.
Maximum time period,
Correct.
yes.
So 90 plus 90 you've got. So
Yes,
for
sir.
5th month, you can file it by the 13th of the subsequent month.
Yes, sir.
And for the last month, you will file it by the 7th, within 7 days of the expiry date.
So, sir, 23rd of, say, for example, September. I came to India on April of 1st. Until 30th of September, I have taken my NRTP registration. So, sir, for the September return, I will pay the tax till 23rd of September.
No, it is within 30 days after the last date of the validity period. Right? It is not minus, it's not reverse. It is 7 days after the last date of the validity period. Your validity period in your example is 30th September.
Yes, sir.
So by 7th of October, you have to file the last return and make the payment.
But, sir, will there be any guarantee, sir? Like, I am an NRTP. So, sir, 7th of October, why will I stay for more days? On 30th, if my work is done, I will go back to my country.
But you have to file your return. You go there, but file the returns here. So there is no kind of control mechanism. So you can go on in between also. Why wait till 30th then? You can go on the 1st itself. You had validity period of 6 months. You make full sales for the 5 months. Don't pay tax for the 5th month also. So that much control government cannot exact. But for that purpose, government will take deposit.
Advance deposit.
Correct. So whatever is your estimated sales, on that you have to make a deposit, only then you get the registration.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Clear. All clear, sir.
Okay. So these are the MCQs for you. I think Kiran had raised the hand. Right. First one is A and second one is D. Third one D. No, third one is C. Yes. Third one is C. and fourth one is D. Correct. Fifth one, answer is D. That's good. Yes, sixth one. B. नहीं. Sixth one is C. Form GST to after the data entry, after the due date only it gets communicated. So answer is C. Right. Seventh one is D. Here there is a mistake in the answer itself since the date is extended. Earlier it was 30th of the month succeeding there. Now it is 30th June. So the question itself is wrong here. Ninth one. Ninth one D. Nahi. Ninth one is C. Correct. 10th one is D. Return can be rectified before 30th November or the due date of filing annual return, whichever is earlier. 11th, the first return, when can it be filed? Oh, no. Confusion between 11A and 11D. Oh, 11C also. Correct answer is 11A, the date on which he becomes liable for registration till the date of grant of registration. Okay, that will be the first return. Komal, your answer is fine, but we are talking about first return. So, till the last day of that month, okay, will be his regular returns. That will not be treated as first return. First return is from the grant, from the day he became liable for registration till the grant of registration. That is called as first return. Match the following kind of a thing, which is the correct match. Well, D, correct. Composition taxpayer or a compounding taxpayer, he will file GSTR 9A. You're right. Last question for the day, 13 and 14. People are saying A. 13 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 people are saying A you are seeing right, 13 is D and 14 also is D. थर्टीन सी नहीं होगा, 13 D ही होगा. Earlier, not later of. Earlier of 3 months from the date of cancellation or date of order of cancellation. Last question now, 15th. Yeah, this is the final question. That was quarter final. This is actual final. Yeah, I will upload this PPT. 15, yes. A, failure to file returns attracts 100 per day or 0.25% of his turnover. Okay, so that brings a completion of all our technical sessions. And Apurv, you want to upload tax invoice challan, debit note, that also I'll do. And this also I will upload. Next class is our final class. Whatever we have learned, we will solve it through a problem solving session. There, if nobody interacts, I am going to leave the class because just chat will not help there. You will have to ask if you have to understand live questions, how we are solving, and that is how we will solve the problem solving, like how we did in ITC chapter, like that. Similar to that, we will post the question, go for the answer immediately there. In exam, Komal, you will have also theory questions also. You will have problems and you will have some theoretical questions also. Oh, in final return later is given. Okay, let me just check this, Smita, and I'll correct that. Oh, in Jan, no theory. Okay. But last question is theory, Komal, is what I understand. Might be January they have made an exception, but generally last question is a theory.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
sir, I have a request. Like, sir, in problem solving class, can we solve like question paper past examination?
See, that I would say you will already have solved question papers there, right? So we want to see that whatever are the nitty-gritties,
Okay, sir.
such questions I will try to take up.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
सर
Yes.
मई 25 का रिवीजन क्लासेस कब से स्टार्ट होंगे?
मई 25 की रिवीजन अभी अनाउंस नहीं किया गया है. जो जनवरी क्या था वो नवंबर, अक्टूबर नवंबर में था, तो मई का भी आप एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हो दैट मार्च मार्च में होना चाहिए.
ओके सर.
ठीक है. यस यस सर, थैंक यू सर.
Recording stopped.